I think members may be forgetting about some characters that we know exist in the MCU. They just haven't come full circle yet. Let's get into it. Another week, another list. We're running. It's the runners-up, the honorable mentions. We have a list of 10 books to discuss record-breaking sales, and Jem, the leader of the Gempire, is here broadcasting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth. How you feeling?
I'm feeling like a lot of collectors are forgetting that these characters were introduced.
Hit the like, slap the subscribe. We've been doing this video for over 2 years straight without skipping a beat. At the list at number 10, House of Secrets, number 88, 1970s classic Neil Adams cover. And that's the major significance of this book. I mean, Halloween may be over, but the beauty, the iconic Neil Adams cover is selling for a pretty penny.
It's giving Detective 31 and Batman 227, classic Neil Adams cover with a CGC 9.2 that shattered records. It sold for just $230 back in November, and it's up 37%, now selling for $316.
A total of 77 copies exist on the census, only 7 9.6s. The last one sold in 2017 for $1,750. The 9.4, there are 17 copies that exist. The last one sold in 2020. These don't come up very often, and it sold for $432. Last week marks the 6 months since the passing, the death of Neil Adams, and I think now is no better time than to revisit some of the work that made him so legendary.
Yeah, with no key significance, it had to be a collector who just appreciated Neil Adams' work, or they could have been caught up in the whole spookiness of Halloween.
And now we're at the list at number 9 with a character who was introduced in the Eternals, but hasn't been utilized to the fullest yet. He hasn't even gone full Black Knight. We're talking Kit Harington. We're talking Black Knight number 1 from 1990, the first solo series featuring the Black Knight, Dane Whitman. 9.6 sold for $200 back in 2021, up 92%, now selling for $384. That's an increase of over $180.
With a total of 622 slabs on the CGC census, you gotta take a look at this 9.8, of which there are 223. The last GPA sale was October 23rd of this year, where it only sold for $175.
Very curious. This is a weirdly high sale for a 9.6, but the heights that this book reached at a 9.8 was back in 2021, selling for $565.
A very volatile book, but we've yet to see Kit Harington really portray this character in a full-length feature. There's actually a couple of characters that meet this criteria.
Post-credit scene debuts. I'm thinking about The Eternals, featuring Pip the Troll, and Star Fox. Arrows, you know. We also have Hercules. Yes, Hercules was introduced in the MCU this year in Thor, Love and Thunder in the post-credit scene. Adam Warlock, which we know Will Poulter is confirmed to portray in a future film, was actually Easter egged back during Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
We had Scar, the son of Hulk, show up at the end of She-Hulk. Not sure if they're really going to do something with him, but I hope they do something with that hair. And Beta Ray Bill, we got a tease similar to Man-Thing. I mean, they were on the same structure in Thor Ragnarok. And of course, we have Kang the Conqueror.
I mean, at this point, I think Beta Ray Bill may be the only person that hasn't shown up since Thor Ragnarok. And, of course, we have Kang the Conqueror with Jonathan Majors slated to go full purple in Quantumania. What about Iron Lad? What about Immortus? What about Rama Tut?
Man, those are a lot of keys. How are we going to keep track of them all?
Some of these characters have cameo appearances, what-if appearances, first full appearances, and the best way to keep track of them all is the best comic app in existence for comic books, learning, tracking, investing, speculating, and price analysis, Key Collector Comics. Utilize code TOM101. Unlock a free 2-week service of the app. It's an essential part of your comic book collecting tool belt. It'll help you on the hunt and so much more. Get suggested pricing, learn about funny books, and keep up with us. Next at the list at number 8, Halloween 2, The Blackest Eyes number 1, debuting in 2001. This is a premium variant.
And we're talking about the variant cover by Trent Kenyuga. It must have been the holiday season that had collectors scouring the internet for spooky covers. This is also one with a low CGC census count. There are only 22 in total, which includes 2 8.0s, 2 9.0s, 3 9.2s, 3 9.4s, last GPA sale $23 in July of 2019, 7 9.6s, and 4 9.8s. GPA sales shows a $43 sale back in August of 2007 as the last recorded sale. We're here to talk about a CGC 9.6, which sold for just $63 back in 2017, up 344%, now selling for $280.
There are 4 different versions of this scary cover. We have cover A, red foil dynamic forces variant, a blue foil dynamic forces variant, and the premium variant, the one on the list, which was limited to 3,000 copies printed. With that low census count, this is one of those surprising books to most collectors. They don't come up often, so that means that they'll warrant the price that the community will pay at the time, because they may not see it for quite some time, especially in high grade. If you have this comic, or if you're hunting, you need to know the cover, because getting this one graded would be a good bet. Halloween is a franchise that's been redone, resequeled over and over again.
Now, for all my horror fans out there, to put this book into perspective, it was released in 2001, so that sits between the 1998 release of Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection that came out in 2002.
Shout out Buster Rhymes.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
This is the first attempt for a requel in the series. We just finished Halloween Ends with the second requel, technically third requel if you count the Rob Zombie films. At the list at number 7, we have Amazing Spider-Man 194. Gem, the first appearance of Black Cat. It's hot. It's breaking records in a Mark Jeweler, and you gave one away at Baltimore. Shout out.
That's right, shout out to Gus over at Silver Age Comics. I picked up an Amazing Spider-Man 194, first Black Cat, and an Amazing Spider-Man 300 that we used for giveaways during Baltimore Comic-Con. Now, this is not so much about the book being hot. There was speculation with the Morbius movie, but I think it's more about that Mark Jewelers insert.
8.0 Mark Jeweler hasn't come up since 2019 publicly. It sold for $136 in 2019. Since then, we have seen an increase as of this week with an all-new sale at $1,000, $999 to be exact. That's an increase of 635% in value. That right there demonstrates the power of that insert, the respect that that variant, the new variant, has on this marketplace.
Now, to put that into perspective, the regular edition 8.0 sells for about $400, and this is by no means a scarce book. There are 8,799 total graded on the CGC census, which includes 5.5s, 892 9.0s, 917 9.2s, 1,132 9.4s, and 1,069 9.6s.
There are 475 9.8s and 4 9.9s. We haven't seen a 9.9 hit the market publicly since 2014 when it sold for $5,079. That would be over a $10K book right now. However, as far as a 9.8 goes, the all-time high happened during the comic boom of 2021 of $5,760. The year low GPA was set in August for $3,800.
Now, we've had a live-action version of Felicia Hardy back in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we had the Morbius Easter egg about the Black Cat in the newspaper, but we've yet to see a true Black Cat hit the MCU or the Spider-Verse for that matter, so might be a great time to buy into this book.
Who needs a black cat when you got an orange one? Next at the list at number 6, All-Star Comics number 4, debuting in 1941. The first appearance, the second appearance of the JSA, but the first JSA mission.
We just got done talking about the first meeting of the JSA and the JLA on the Hot 10 list. Make sure to check that video out. And here we are with All-Star Comics 4. We're going Golden Age. We have renewed interest in these characters, not only with the Black Adam movie, but also with Jeff Johns tackling the characters next year in comics.
I've been excited to report on this comic book today because it gives some perspective on the value and the scarcity of the Golden Age. We were just chatting about the first appearance of Black Cat. It's a major Bronze Age book with a 9.9 on the census and the total census count about to exceed 9,000 copies in total. All-Star Comics number 4, there's a lonely 86 copies graded on the census. 2 at a 9.4, and that's the highest it goes. 2 and a 9.2, and 3 and a 9.0, which is the most recent high-graded sale we have to report on, and it sold in 2021 for $9,430.
And this week we have a record-breaking sale in a CGC 4.0. It sold for $1,315 back in 2018, up 143%, now selling for $3,200.
Now, I know Halloween's done, but I'm still feeling a little eerie. Eerie? Oh, we have Eerie #1 debuting in 1947 with the Michael Scott joke.
Delivery's all wrong.
Hot damn. Hit the subscribe button. Where do you get this kind of comic book themed content anywhere? The first comic book dedicated to the horror genre.
Very cool to see the first horror comic book from the Golden Age show up on the list. And again, collectors had Halloween on their mind when they started making these purchases. Another low census count book, 86 total on the census, which includes 3 1.5s, 5 7.5s, 7 8.0s, 4 8.5s, 3 9.0s, and 3 9.2s. Now, the last GPA sale on those 9.0s, we have $11,400 in September of 2020. The previous sale from 2007 was only $5,500. 13-year difference, though.
The highest graded copy of this book, in which there are 3, are graded at a 9.2, and the last one sold back in 2012 publicly. This is very scarce, and when it sold, it went for $95.60. I encourage the community to go onto their Comixology Unlimited, because there is a free version of Volume 1, and I know you have your Comixology Unlimited, because comic books aren't just about collecting, they're for reading too, damn it. And this Volume 1 is going to shock you. Not by just the horror per se, but by the line work. It's stunning. It's beautiful. Coming out in 1947, you're going to get Bernie Wrightson vibes in these pages, and it's a wonderful thing. The Golden Age is so undervalued. It's so underrated.
With that, let's stick with the Golden Age. Number 4 on the list, we have Batman issue 16 from 1943. Not only is this a classic cover of Batman and Robin getting caught in the spotlight, but it's the first appearance and origin of Alfred.
It's so crazy to think how long it's been since Bane killed Alfred in the pages of Batman 77. I mean, Alfred was absent in all of James Tynion's run. And one of the coolest things to take place was Tom Taylor taking on Nightwing, which really was formed out of that catalyst, Alfred's death and his wealth being given to Dick Grayson.
They are playing with the idea of the return of Alfred in the Mark Waid Batman vs. Robin series, but we still have to wait a little bit to see how that pans out. We have a CGC 4.0 that broke record, selling for $3,028 in 2019, up 158%, now selling for $7,800.
That's almost an increase of $5,000 since 2019. There's a total of 179 copies graded on the census, and the highest graded copy is a 9.2. Only one exists, and we have no GPA sales data on it. We have a 9.0. 3 copies exist, and an 8.5 in which there are 3 copies that exist, and the most recent high-graded GPA sale, which took place in June of this year for $27,000.
Now, if these 4-figure prices seem a little bit high, you got to consider this. A 0.5 just sold for $725 in January of this year. You're not getting a Marvel blue chip key for under $1,000.
Getting savvy with Golden Age may seem like a little bit of a daunting process, but the spec lies in the old, the gold, the scarce, and we're going to keep that going with number 3 on the list with Marvel Family #1 debuting in 1945. We have the first appearance and origin of the Black Adam.
No surprise that this book made the list. It's also the origin of the Marvel family, which is Captain Marvel Jr., Mary Marvel, and Uncle Marvel, who we all saw debut at the end of the SHAZAM movie in 2019. This one has 137 slabs on the CGC census. We're looking at 5.5s. The last sale, which was the all-time high on GPA, was $2,500 in April of 2021.
There are 9 7.5s and 4 8.0s. We actually saw an 8.0 sell back in June. We covered it on the show for $45,600. Hadn't sold before that since 2010 for $657. Yes, under $1,000.
So a $45,000 gain. The 8.5, there are 2 copies on the census. There is only 1 GPA sale. It sold for $1,525 in December of 2013.
And that's bound to have some price correction, especially when you look at the 9.0, which has only 3 copies graded on the census, and the last sale was reported back in January for $90,000. But if you go back to 2010, a 9.0 sold then for $1,850. Ha!
And then the highest graded copy is a 9.4, which there are 2 on the CGC census. Only 1 GPA sale, though, in September of 2021. It was a pedigree from the Promise collection, which sold for $186,000.
So that brings us to Black Adam's debut over the last couple weeks. We have a 2.0 that came to market. We were bound to see copies of this hit, and it sold back in 2021 for $3,800, and we're seeing an increase of 129%. Shout out Punisher! Now selling for $8,700.
Another one for an increase of almost $5,000. Now, if you think that you've seen a lot of Golden Age on this list, it's sourced from a much larger list of over 20 on Key Collector app, where there's even more gold to be found.
And there's more gold to be discussed on this very show. At the list at number 2, Master Comics number 29, debuting in 1942, a cover that really gives you a peek at American history. What was being marketed and used on comic covers really gives you a glimpse of the past. We have Emperor Hirohito and Hitler being spanked by Captain Marvel Jr. Ouch.
It's giving Captain America 1 punching Hitler in the face. They did it in Marvel and DC. This is another low census count. I mean, it's a Golden Age book. 35 in total exist, starting with a CGC 2.5, which there is only one copy. There's 2 7.0s, 3 7.5s, and 3 8.0s. Now, the last GPA sale on the 8.0 was in November of 2021, where it sold for $5,280. Prior to that, the last sale was in 2002, where it sold for $1,093.
Then we have a 9.2. Only one copy exists, and it sold back in December 2011 for $4,300. And then we have a 9.4, the highest graded copies that exist. Only 2 of them, by the way. And it was an Edgar Church, the Mile High pedigree, and it sold for $18,000. There's only 35 copies in total graded on the census.
Which brings us to the record-breaking sale this week for a CGC 5.5. It sold for $340 way back in 2008, up 2,194%, selling for $7,800.
A mid-grade copy outperforming an 8.0 in as little as 2 short years. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and at the list at number 1, dare I say, Golden Age brilliance, one of my personal grails that I hope to own one day. But after looking at these prices, it's getting kind of scary. We have Police Comics number 1 debuting in 1941, the character I have tattooed on my arm, the character that brings up the most conversations when members of the community see my tattoos. We have the first appearance of Plastic Man.
Another Golden Age key on the list debuting in 1941. It's also a quadruple key, as it's the first appearance of Plastic Man, the first appearance of the Human Bomb, the first appearance of Firebrand, and the first appearance of Phantom Lady.
Now, we have a $16,000 price hike to report on this week, and days after this sale took place, we got the news that James Gunn has now taken on the role as the Kevin Feige of the DC Cinematic Universe. And I can't tell you how psyched I am. Being a Plastic Man fan, think of what James Gunn was able to accomplish with the Suicide Squad. Essentially a dead IP, no pun intended. Think of what he did with Peacemaker, the Vigilante, and now what he can do with Plastic Man. It seems inevitable. And we have a 4.0 back in 2006 that sold for $1,139, an increase of 1,480% with an all-new high of 18,000. Hot damn.
A $17,000 increase, but you have to consider that one hasn't sold since 2006. It's a scarce book. Only 46 of them exist on the CGC census. 1.5, 2 7.5s, 1.80, 1 8.5, which sold in June of 2020 for $22,655. 1 9.2, which hasn't sold since 2004, a Windy City pedigree, and that sold for $14,950.
The highest graded copy that exists is a 9.4. It's a legendary copy from the Edgar Church, the Mile High pedigree, and it sold in 2014 for $38,838. Hit the like, slap the subscribe. How excited are you for James Gunn to start dabbling in the DC universe more than he already has? Let me know in the comment section below. And very important, as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Nothing said, join myself, Jetman, and all my homies in the best new place to buy and sell collectibles, whatnot, available for both Androids and iPhones. We do dollar start auctions that last as little as 15 seconds long. We're doing exclusive drops. We're breaking out key books. Our graded books are selling at crazy discounts, and we're doing it for the fam. Come join us, and we have 2 other videos. Take a look at them. We made them for you. I think you'll like them.